Hi everybody, and welcome to our session today on productivity tips and tricks for the age of digital overload. I am Loryan and Strant, joined by a fellow MVP and wife.
Hi everyone, I'm Megan Strant. And so today in our session, what we're going to do is explore some human challenges in achieving our daily work. We're going to review executive functions and how we can use technology to improve these skills. And if you've never heard the term executive functions, don't worry, we'll get to that. We're also going to suggest some applications and features that help reduce our own chaos, stress and distraction. We will introduce some key functions. We're going to, with each one, talk about some problems associated with them and then apps we rely on to keep productive.
So just really quickly, I guess, who are we? Now you can see the slides, you can see the video of us. We are Microsoft 365 consultants, but more importantly, we are humans who work and live with the tools. Like everybody, we have meetings, we've got deadlines, we have chaos. We travel, well, we used to. We deal with clients, we lead projects, we design solutions, and we support our colleagues. But that's the professional version of us. The closest I'm getting is this casual wear right now. But what do we actually like in real life? Now, I was actually diagnosed with ADHD only 2.5 years ago, so it was quite an eye-opener for me, and a lot of it made sense, but the journey continues. Just because I know I've got it doesn't mean that's it, it's done. It's actually been a bit challenging for me to accept, to understand, to work with, and to also to adjust to. The thing is also ADHD, despite me wearing a t-shirt with it, doesn't actually define me, but it does explain a fair bit about me. Now, the thing is, the same traits, quirks, and behaviors that may endear me to one person or benefit one area of my life may actually do the opposite elsewhere or with others. So Megan might laugh at a joke I might make today, and then later that day, later tonight, she might not like it that much, or the next day. Or I might annoy my kids, but yesterday it was completely fine. She laughs because it's quite true. So I have my challenges as a father and as a husband. And for a long time, I've actually relied on technology to help me with some of those things, to be honest, to be a human being. I use these technologies, I guess, to manage the chaos of my own mind, but ultimately to help me as a father, as a husband, and in general across my personal life, in the hopes that those around me get the better version of me.
And for me, this session is actually very different because it requires unmasking, which is new to my professional self, I guess. Like Loryan, I was diagnosed later in life while our daughter was being assessed for autism. So I have autism or Asperger's, it's known with both terms. And it took me a bit to absorb what it all meant. And also, to be honest, how did we come together? How did two people, undiagnosed for such a long time happen to be both neurodiverse and together? So we have a bit of a complex household. For myself, I can spend a lot of time in a state of anxiety. Often you won't notice because I am actually quite good at masking and covering those things up. And that's quite common with autism, to not know someone with autism is actually trying to portray a role or hide some of the things that are bothering them. I have challenges across memory, sensory issues, sometimes with my focus on my work, and then also the social side of things. So while I can actually play the role of senior leader and be highly skilled, with this I do mask my challenges quite regularly. So the diagnosis for me has been important in both work and family life. While I always noticed some things about me that they were there that didn't quite feel right, I had a long journey of ups and downs. The diagnosis also helped me through different situations. So I understand myself a lot more at work and home. I know more about what is actually impacting me in the moment and what's causing me stress. And then I think also we both understand each other significantly more now that we know what we're dealing with. And at the same time, we're also learning how to raise complex kids.
So what I guess makes up, today's digital overload is many things, both in our work and personal lives, especially over the last 12 months. Doesn't need to be said that, they've almost been one and the same, and that's been adding to quite a lot. Now, I'm not going to go into detail about what all of these are because most likely you're experiencing it right now as you're attending this session. So what are some of those factors? Now, everybody has challenges. What makes Megan and I so special, other than the label of being neurodiverse, be it her ASD and my ADHD? Even with our specific challenges, we are, at the end of the day, human beings. And like you, we have many challenges. The difference is that with us and what those challenges do to us is how they impact us and how we react to them. So we're more of an extreme when it comes to these things, but the challenges are relatively the same. So what we experience and how we manage that can actually be useful for other people.
Definitely. And I actually personally found some challenges last year, particularly in the thrust of homeschooling and holding down a job and many things. I reached out to a psychologist who diagnosed me, and I actually asked her if she could reassess me for ADHD, and she laughed at me. It was kind. She said, "Megan, I know you don't have ADHD." But what was interesting was she told me that many people were booking in to be assessed for ADHD. A lot of people were struggling with focus. People were really stressed out. And so it was interesting to find many people are actually having issues with all these things and feeling ineffective in their job with all the overall stress.
So what has this got to do with Microsoft 365? And well, the reality is it's a big suite of products, which in itself can be overwhelming when you're dealing with it on a daily basis. However, there's a number of standouts that make all the difference to our digital day. And as Megan said, it's not necessarily about the product itself, it's about the practice and how we use it.
Yeah, and then with that, we use this term executive functioning. So when we thought about this session and, rather than just talking about ourselves, as much as we love sharing that stuff and it's important, a key, I guess, way to frame this session, we couldn't help but think about your executive functioning skills. Executive functioning is a term psychologists use to describe the tasks that our brains perform that are necessary for us to think and act and solve problems. It includes tasks that help us learn information, as well as remembering and retrieving information that we've learned in the past. And we use this information to solve problems every day. All humans have executive functions in their work and personal life. Being neurodiverse, we can have challenges in these areas. And when we thought about all these things, we found the technical detail, it actually isn't complex. What we wanted to do was show how simple features can make an impact on your day. Even if you're deeply across the tech that we show you, we thought we'd structure the session in a way so hopefully anyone will get some takeaways and there's some useful information either on the tech or how brains function. So we've chosen 4 main categories for this session, and the first one I want to dive into is organisation. So organisation relates to keeping track of information and also things. It's about structuring information and keeping track of detail within your work or life. Some of the problems here can be, where are the notes that I took from the meeting? Or what was that idea I had? Have you seen the document? Where did I store it? Or even I forgot my headset. When we think about those problems in this area of executive functioning, there are 3 products that came to mind for us, and we're going to dive into a couple of things with each of them. So firstly, OneNote. I am a prolific note taker and I rely heavily on OneNote anywhere that I can capture detail. OneNote enables me to have a structured system. It can be visual, sketching, categories, icons, links. I can put anything in there. And I think there's so much value in this tool that many people don't get because they don't move beyond typing in a page and the basics. I love that I can even tick off who attended a meeting with the meeting details. And even it just connecting it all together is crucial for me to access later when I need to remember things.
One of the things I've been working with is something called Project Mocha. Now, Project Mocha was formerly known as Outlook Spaces and is currently in preview. Effectively, what Project Mocha provides is a digital canvas that allows me to bring together notes and content from different apps and services within Microsoft 365 into a single area, so that I don't have to remember where that file is or what that email is, if it's in my inbox or if it's been filed away. Effectively, it's kind of like having your own personal Microsoft 365 group or team, but just for you, because I don't need the people in it. I just need all the information collected together. So when I'm working on certain projects like this exact presentation, effectively, I just created a Project Mocha space and put my work in there.
What I love is it's kind of like Pinterest for work, because rather than just having a structured page, you can just throw things on your board. And I personally want to use this heavily to take my OneNoting to the next level.
So another one that I use for myself personally is lists. So lists has actually been around since 2001 in SharePoint. However, it's only been recently that it's been broken out into its own app and received some well overdue features and visual improvements. Because lists can be created in OneDrive, that effectively allows me to then break the data out of what would normally be files buried in a folder somewhere, and instead they're individual items and columns. And what that means is I can then have lists look up and work with other lists. I can have workflows and automations that occur just from a change in a field. Now, normally this is in the business context, but I actually use this in my personal life because a lot of the time the digital overload that I have to experience is not so much what I actually have to do, but the knowledge and mental space it takes to remember that I have to do it. So I don't actually use lists for tasks. I do use it for keeping clear information about our family, information that isn't buried in a document or spreadsheet, or to be honest, even OneNote page, sorry. And because it's in OneDrive though, I can actually share it with Megan, and at work, I can share it with colleagues. So the next one I want to dive into is planning, prioritization, and task initiation. So we brought planning and prioritization together with task initiation as we felt they kind of go hand in hand, especially when it comes to how we use the product in M365. So with this section, we're going to look at not just how we stay on course with the work that we need to do for our tasks, or the tasks we need to complete, but how we actually overcome the inertia that manifests itself in the form of procrastination. So when we look at what are the problems, we've got to think about, how do we know what's important? How do we manage what's important to us versus what's important to others? What happens if something impacts our plans? How do we adjust for unplanned changes? But also, how do we just start the task that we keep bumping along and along and along, and we know we all do it, we just move that appointment along. So the tools that I want to focus on here are probably pretty obvious here: To Do, Outlook, and My Analytics. But how do we use them? Now, To Do, it's easy enough to put tasks into To Do, but the challenge is making them meaningful. Instead of emailing myself when I think of something, I create a task in To Do. This allows me to think about which list this task should go into, what are some steps or subtasks that might be involved, put in more detailed description, so what's actually in my mind at the time, and even attach files like a photo for reference. So this means that when I get to the task, I'm not left trying to figure out what it means, because I can tell you that when I would email myself, do this, blah, 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 I'd get the next day and go, what did I mean by that? Instead, I have all the information at hand. However, the thing that I would say from a practice perspective is not to go crazy with it and putting too much stuff in there, because it becomes difficult to navigate and actually becomes overwhelming and you don't actually want to start. For my personal life, and these are screenshots of my actual to-do, I have recurring tasks for weekend chores that I do around the house. It takes the thinking away. I don't have to think about, am I doing our bed sheets this weekend or the kids' bed sheets? It's just in the app. For my work life, I actually hold myself accountable and have a daily stand-up, where I look at what needs to be done, what tasks didn't I get to potentially, and what do I need to do to plan from there. The great thing with To Do is I actually don't have to remember to do it. As you can see in the top right corner, it's actually built into the app itself. So I get a reminder every morning at 9 o'clock saying, hey, you completed 3 tasks yesterday. What are you going to do today?
So Outlook calendar. This is so simple and so common, but don't underestimate the power of your Outlook calendar. I work with many people across my job, and a lot of them live by their calendar. So I actually heavily structure my weeks ahead, whether it be throughout the day or 2 weeks ahead. Things like the final bit in my calendar there is a daily review and prioritization. I really ensure that I'm not led by the meetings that I've accepted. So structure first, then accept meetings later. And then I use things like color coding that help structure the day as well. And then there's My Analytics. So as for remembering to do things, Cortana has saved me a couple of times. Any feature that's like your boss tapping you on the shoulder saying, hey, have you done the thing, is really valuable.
And I personally use the My Analytics Insights add-in in Outlook. So it's a bit like the Cortana briefing, but it's there all day, every day. But as well as that, it actually helps me prepare for meetings by suggesting attachments, email, or people that relate to meetings that I've got coming up.
So the next executive function we wanted to dive into is working memory. This is a topic very, very personal to me, as it's one of my biggest challenges. I have issues with short-term memory and recall, and that I have to work quite hard on. I surprisingly survived through school and university, but I heavily used mnemonics, if anyone remembers what mnemonics are. Lots of colour coding and cards and things to help me remember and really embed the detail. I can also have trouble thinking of things on the spot. I know that there'll be people in this session, actually, if they know me, will suddenly go, oh yeah. Sometimes in meetings, I don't quite recall what the thing is or what the customer said until I've checked my notes, and there it is. So what can be some of the core problems with working memory? Personally, I can lose my train of thought, and I can feel like a muddled old lady. What was that action that I was supposed to do? Which meeting did I get raised in? Oh, hang on, wait, are we still talking about the same issue? Have we moved on? This area requires, as I said, a lot of energy for me. And these are some of the products that, again, we're going to just touch on how they help. So, yep, OneNote. But it makes sense because if you set up your notebook to store the information, it's where you're going to find the information. I am a big visual person. I find that I embed and remember things if they're visual more than verbal. I'm often sketching in the meeting while people are talking because I will recall this visual stuff more than the verbal things. Don't forget the value of dictation on the go. So OneNote on my mobile, if I leave a meeting, I can quickly say a few things. And also remember when we come into meeting rooms and whiteboard together, taking a photo, I love that I can put that into my OneNote app on my phone if I need to. The other thing that's really, really important, again, is my calendar. Now, I've already talked about calendar. I'm not getting really sophisticated with technology today. But what I wanted to capture on my actual calendar here that you may not have noticed before is these 15-minute gaps. Big believer in brain breaks. It's crucial to allow time to consolidate your thoughts, to reflect, and to catch on things after the meeting's finished. How can you go from a 9 till 10, 10 till 11, 11 till 12, leave one at 9:59 or 10:01, jump into the next call? You really need to get yourself sorted and absorb information. Brain breaks are really crucial, and without this time across the day, I think I would unravel.
And I mentioned before about to-do and how I love it, and to-do is great, and planner is also great. And the thing is, we can have tasks in both. And while to-do can surface the tasks that I have in planner, the problem is they just live in a single list called assigned to me. So while the tasks in Teams app, effectively what that allows me to do is kind of the same experience, but I can easily switch between individual planner tasks as well as my to-do tasks while keeping the context of the task that I'm looking at. So I'm not just looking at a single task and going, what's this about? I can actually see potentially other related tasks in it. So that actually helps me mentally go, that's what this particular task was for and how that affects other things. So another one is Teams. Now, hang on, how does Teams help me personally, apart from meetings, and allow me to work from home and give me plenty of cool swag to wear? Lots of discussions at work happen in ad hoc calls as opposed to meetings. So this is where we have a call with a colleague, whether it's internal or external. So what my practice is with those is, with their permission, is record the call if I think we're going to make some decisions or determine some actions and tasks. Now, this makes it easy for me to go back and find what was said, because more often than not, even all the note taking and task creation, we might miss something or forget why we said that something needed to be done. So the transcript feature as well allows me to just go back and search for all this and without having to replay the whole thing. So again, I've got more context to it.
This one's big for me as well. I often go back to the transcript and search for my name to work out what was said that I needed to do to double check. Yeah, definitely.
So the next one we want to look at, and I guess our final step in today's journey, is attention. So attention is the A in ADHD. If you've seen the movie Up, then what do you think of when we say the word squirrel? So everything is fighting for our attention in this day and age. Now, both digital and non-digital. In fact, in the digital world, apps and services are designed to fight for our attention. It's one of the biggest sources of frustration that we experience, as well as our colleagues experience with us as well. So right now, most likely a number of you are probably checking messages on email, Teams, Twitter, whatever. Right now, you're actually increasing your cognitive load by trying to do several things at once. We all think we can, but there's a cost to that whole multitasking and trying to do multiple things at once. So when we think about the problem of this is, how do we hold on to attention? Or if we don't hold on to attention, this greatly affects our work as well as the work around us. We get distracted easily and our work suffers as it takes time to kind of get back to what we were thinking. We have to kind of reconnect and go, this is what I was thinking about, and get back into that mode. Alternatively, another aspect of ADHD, but again, everybody gets this, is you get too focused and forget that the real world exists, which is when you miss meetings, messages, or dinner sometimes. So before we worked from home, it was not exactly uncommon for people to bring laptops into meetings and divert their attention. And like that before time, we had various non-digital distractions that would also affect our attention. So, hey, look, there's a common theme with some of these apps. So My Analytics, Microsoft Teams, and a surprise non-Microsoft product is going to feature. So the first one here, My Analytics, we've mentioned it again, why it is amazing. And it hurts me when I hear people who ignore it and don't know it exists. But My Analytics is an absolute hero here. And why? Because of the focus time feature. If you haven't used it, check it out today. When we book focus time in My Analytics, it automatically changes our team's presence to be focusing, sets our Windows 10 notifications to be in focus assist mode, and ultimately does its best to stop us getting distracted with messages, notifications, and pop-ups.
I also found, though, as a colleague to yourself, but I've noticed with others, when someone puts themselves in focus time as opposed to do not disturb, when you look someone up and it says focus time or focused, I think you're less likely to actually reach out, because it's not just D&D, they're doing targeted focus time. I'm really big on status, presence, not that sort of status. I change my status often across the day to help shut out the world when I need to focus on something and do deeper work, or just be left alone to just keep moving through things. One particular thing that I do is sometimes about 5 o'clock, I put myself into appear offline or offline mode. So people actually think that I've gone for the day and I'm not available. And it just helps me to get more things done. Hopefully no one from work has just heard that. But it's just, that status though is crucial and can really add value.
And for me personally, with the status message, I actually have one that is always there. It never changes. That effectively explains my working style to my peers, so they don't feel that they can never get in contact with me based on what my presence is saying. Because I have a lot of people that have said over time that I'm always busy, focusing, do not disturb, so they don't send me messages. Like, you can. It just means I'll be delayed in getting to them.
Of course, we cannot not mention noise cancelling headphones. It's such an autism stereotype for a person to be wearing headphones, but for a person with highly sensitive hearing, they are one of my favourite possessions.
And whether you're working in the office or home, there's nothing like the ability to block out the sound of other people talking. So the only words in my head are my own. And that is a huge thing from a distraction perspective. Now, one thing that we want to bring up is this bonus tool, which is the My Day Today app. So one of the things that I really struggle with is having clear visibility into what I've got ahead of me for the day. And what I really wanted was a single pane of glass that I could look through that would show me where I'm at in the day and what I've got on and what I've got left. And I worked with the different views of Outlook and To Do, but they just didn't cut it for me. So I effectively built my own app in Power Apps that does exactly that. Shows my appointments, my task, what's left. It also, since I built it originally, now has a Pomodoro timer in it. If you're not sure what that is, it's actually a technique that Megan taught me about a long time ago that I've really taken to heart. But now that it has that Pomodoro timer, it also has the ability to trigger focus time in My Analytics, and therefore your presence in Teams and notifications in Windows 10. So I'm not going to go into detail on it because I can talk about it for a long time. I have. There's actually, if you look at that link there, there's actually a link to some YouTube videos that a few of us did about Pomodoro technique and Microsoft 365, as well as a link to this app, which is available for you to download for free.
I think I come across a lot of people who actually want to use Microsoft Planner as an individual, and it's actually designed for groups. This is something worth definitely looking at, because when Loryan designed this is the whole thing of having everything on a monitor is fantastic.
I'm going to go attend to the dog while Megan talks through the slide.
So just some key takeaways from the session. I think one thing that we hope to kind of give people a bit of awareness and understanding that executive functions are just part of being human, and we all have them. We also all have daily challenges. So it's a good moment to reset, reflect, and think, am I being kind of dragged through my day, or do I control it? Explore some of your habits that you might not realize are actually sabotaging your own productivity. Little changes can actually be big wins. And I think a key thing is also to respect each other's boundaries. So don't sabotage someone else's productivity. You know, if someone's in focus time or D&D, it's for a reason. And so try to also help them. So that's the core things that we wanted to deliver in this session. Thank you for dialing in and listening. And we also just wanted to, while we throw to Ali, in case there's any questions you want to call out, we also just wanted to, there's a few names on the screen here. I'll just take a moment to thank some people involved in Ignite, but also who have been involved in our day-to-day, who actually have supported both our journeys ongoing, some for a few years. And there's some of our details there also if anyone wants to reach out. So Ali, our fabulous producer, Bubba is the fabulous producer, but Ali as well. Is there anything that you wanted us to answer?
Hi, you guys are getting so much praise and lots of fans out there and lots of questions that came in, but I'm going to try to kind of summarize. So there's a lot of questions like, do you use to do or lists or both? If both, why? Same question about OneNote and Mocha, like how do you kind of rationalize the mass amount of Microsoft 365 products and which ones to use when that process in itself is overwhelming?
I think we should also, I was actually thinking today we should turn this into a blog and both share it on our sites, but also go deeper there. Personally, Mocha is new to me, but I'm excited because with OneNote, I do have to know where things are. I have to go to those pages, whereas Mocha, I like the idea of almost like a mind map of documents and things. So that's new to me, but yeah, as I said, it's something that I really want to try more of.
Yeah, for me, and look, Megan from a task perspective likes Planner because of the cards. I don't like it because it creates a group, and I'm all about governance, and I don't like group sprawl. So I used to do, but yeah, the Mocha for me is an absolute killer app, and I cannot wait for it to be in production, to be generally available. But anybody can get it now; it's in preview. Because yeah, having things in OneNote, in To Do, in the Planner, in all these different, you know, OneDrive and SharePoint, things all over the place. It was actually probably, I got to a point in early February where I was going to say pulling my hair out, but that's not a thing anymore. Where yeah, just Mocha saved me because I was able to just stitch together things, and anything that Mocha doesn't understand from a 365 perspective, I can just put in as a link. So
I think we both use To Do, definitely value, but I think even things are changing so rapidly, and I think we're both probably occasionally doing our own check-in. I know we talk about a fair bit to think about, are we using them the best as well?
Yeah, I mean, from a To-Do perspective, we actually share a To-Do personally. Actually, sorry, we share several To-Do task lists, and we also share a notebook, and yeah, we share lists for information as well. So
and everyone could see on your slide that you're doing the washing the sheets on Saturday.
Yeah, well, every weekend is sheets.
Any other questions?
Yeah, no, that was great. So one question that came in I thought was interesting, especially given both of you and your experiences. Do you feel that age is a factor? So this question came in at the very beginning as you were sharing your stories. Do you think that age is a factor in your neurodiversity journey?
I think children was a massive catalyst. So you can navigate through your own life, being you and working things out. I personally was diagnosed with anxiety when I was 20. So that happens to be what shows up with autism, with all the things that you're dealing with. So it can be really complicated. But I think with both of us, yeah, it's difficult because then you look back and go, oh, things could have been different if only I'd known what was really going on with me back then.
Yeah, and I think that, as Megan said, it's the children thing, because when I went through my diagnosis, the professionals basically said, well, with all these different tools, you've put in coping mechanisms and structure to help you through your day, whether you've got ADHD or not. But it's the unpredictability of children, and also that what comes around that as well, that is basically what fractured everything and caused things to kind of not fall apart in a bad way, but my complete thing to get lost. So that's why I have now To Do. I don't have to plan everything out to the nth degree. It's just I know this weekend this is what I'm doing. I
think also just one other thing to add, the one thing that does come with age is pattern. So yes, there can be years of, you can change jobs a couple of times in your 20s. You know, I share housed when I was in my early 20s, and some relationships were really challenging. Sometimes I moved out and things like that. So that's the other thing with, I guess, our age is now that there's a pattern of, oh, hang on, maybe I am part of the reason why I've quit a couple of jobs in my 20s, or my relationships with my family or certain people have been strained, or so there's a lot of stuff there as well. But certainly as soon as we had our first child very early on, I thought there's something different about her. She required a lot of support. And I thought she was autistic before I knew anything about autism, and then it suddenly circled back to me. So yeah, it has played a role.
Yeah, well, we're at time. There's definitely more questions in the chat, but I'm sure we can answer some of them on Twitter. And just thank you both so much for sharing your stories and all these tips. I know you helped a lot of people, and I really appreciate you.
Thank you, Ali. Thanks, Barbara, for producing, and Katie, who organised this with Ali as well. And thanks everyone who dialed in.
Thank you.